attrition rate for this study. They totally have 11 subject drop out through the course of intervention out of 66 being randomized. So the attrition rate is around 17%, which is at the margin border of acceptable validity kind of study. But because another thing we need to talk about is that this study actually followed the subject for a pretty long time, like around 8 months. So that a higher dropout rate would be expected. Okay, and if attrition occurs, we need to look for whether the investigator performed an intention to treat analysis. What is intention to treat? It's a statistical method that the author used to control for the missing data. So basically, the very easy way to look at is to search for this keyword, intention to treat. If the author did intention to treat, means that whenever there's a missing data, they would use a group mean or they will use a previous data result to substitute for the missing data. So means that they are using a more conservative method to estimate the result. And so if there's any attrition or missing data within the study, intention to treat should be used. And when you are looking at the study, what you can do is to look for that keyword, intention to treat. And for example, in this study, they wrote this in the method of their abstract. Some of the study would write this keyword in their statistical analysis section. And with this method, you are confident that they did something about their missing data and they are using a more conservative method to substitute for missing data. Okay, the last question to determine study credibility is to look at whether the investigator confirmed their finding with a new set of subjects. I would say this part is a little bit hard, but it would be the possibility that the research finding can be applied to another group of participants and just to reduce the bias of the potential unique characteristic of the participant that you recruited this time. But again, I want to emphasize that this is hard to achieve in a single research report. So a lot of the time, when a researcher proposes a new intervention method, they might conduct a study, and then it's possible that the same group of authors will conduct a follow-up study to make sure that the applicability of or the findings what they found in the previous study can be applied to other population. Or it could be conducted by another group of investigators and just to double check whether the first group of investigators, whether their study protocol can be applied to other population. So basically for this question, we will expect to have a second study to confirm this part. Okay, so we have covered 12 questions regarding the credibility of an intervention study. And actually they have established this PEDRO. PEDRO is a physiotherapy evidence scale. So they call this PEDRO scale. And PEDRO, you can go to this website. It's a website that assesses the methodology quality of clinical trial, and it included a lot of well-conducted study that you can look for. It's a database basically. And for this PEDRO scale, they actually specify the 11 questions, and most of them are what we have talked about in the previous slides. And for this 11 question, we can give a score about the quality of the study. So look at the first question. the PDRO will ask whether eligible criteria were specified, so whether the author specified the inclusion and exclusion criteria of the participant, yes or no. And if yes, you will check yes. If no, then you will check no. But this first question is not included in the scoring. So for the second question, they look at whether the subjects are randomly allocated to group, and just what we've talked about, yes or no. If yes, then this study get 1 point. If no, then that's 0 point. And then whether the allocation was concealed, yes or no. Again, yes 1 point, no 0. Whether the groups were similar at baseline regarding the most important prognostic indicators. And that's what we've talked about, whether the author did baseline comparison between the groups to make sure that they are equivalent in the demographic data, yes or no. And then whether subjects were blinded, which I said is going to be pretty hard in the PT studies. And whether the therapists who administer the therapy were blinded. I didn't talk about this, but I think this one is also a hard one to be applied in our PT study, because most therapists need to know what intervention they need to give. So it's not possible to blind the therapist unless there are actually, it's the what the example I give you is like providing medication or injection of vaccine, then that's possible to blind the therapist. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to blind the therapist, since the therapist is the key personnel providing the intervention. It's not possible to blind them. Okay. So again, if they did successfully blind the therapist, then that's meeting the criteria. But if no, then just click no, it's okay. Okay, then were the assessors blinded to the outcome measures? And this one is a must-do one that we mentioned for a randomized control trial. It's better to blind the assessor to avoid bad evaluation. And then this one is to look at whether at least one key outcome were obtained, and then more than 85% of the subject being initially allocated to the groups. So basically, this question is saying that whether all the subjects were assessed with the key outcome. Mostly, I would say we'll click yes for most of the interventional study nowadays. I hardly see a study that did not do that. It's not, I cannot understand why there's a study did not assess some of the participants in their study trials. So basically, I would say mostly yes for a well-conducted randomized control trial. And then we want to look for those missing data where the intention to treat was used in their statistics. And this is the one we talk about. Just look for the keyword intention to treat, and if they did, then it's a yes to this question. And then we want to look for whether there are in statistical comparison between the groups in at least one key outcome. It is possible that when you don't have enough sample size for each group, or it's a case series study or even a case report study, you cannot conduct statistical comparison. But if it is a study with 2 or more groups that have more than 10 people, then statistical comparison between the groups, again, is a must-do kind of work. And to make sure that you are using some statistic to compare the effect, but not just descriptive data. Lastly, it's not whether the study provide point measure and measures of variability of at least one key outcome. This one is that whether the study give you a table of the result of the outcome. So you are looking for when in the table, they probably will give you mean minus plus standard deviation or standard error, or confidence interval. So they will give you a mean or median, that's a point measure. And then the standard deviation, standard error, or confidence level will be the variability of that measure. A good study should give you those information saying that, for the walking speed, the mean was 1.02 plus minus 0.08 meter per second. So that's going to be a key to look for in the table or in the result, to look for this kind of information. Okay, so once you complete this Pedro scale, you will need to count the number of yeses you click. So for one yes, for clicking yes, then it's going to get 1 point, and for no, then it will be 0 point. And for this Pedro scale, if a score greater than 6, so if a study has a score like 6 to 10 points, then we will consider this is as a high quality study. But if the score is like 4 to 5 points, then it's probably a study with fair quality. But if the score is less than 3 points, then we will think this study has poor quality and the validity of the study is not good. So, which means we should not believe that, which means that the result of that study is not as believable as we wish it to be. Okay, in summary, RCT studies are actually hard and expensive to conduct. So I would be really appreciative for every interventional study, especially RCT studies that you read. It is, when you are reading one paper, it's actually a hard work of a group of team members for a period of 3 to 5 years. And they might spend millions of dollars trying to recruit participants, provide intervention, and then do the assessment and conduct statistics, and then writing them out into a manuscript. So RCT studies are hard and expensive to conduct. So there are not as many RCT studies as we wish. And a lot of the time, if the patient's condition are more complex, or like in rare disease, it's hard to conduct an RCT study because there's just not enough patients for them to do that kind of study. And then if a treatment effect is extremely positive, then we would think that it's going to be correct, especially if a study with good validity and what we say with high score from the Pedro scale, greater than 6 points out of 10, then, and it also has positive result, then we'll probably believe that the result is going to be correct. But if a study is showing you that the treatment is useless or harmful, it is likely to be correct as all. So you need to believe that result and maybe stop using that treatment. Lastly, if a single case study makes more clinical sense, use it. I've been talking about how to critically appraise randomized control trial, but a lot of the time, just like what I said, some patient cases are very rare or very complicated, and if you have that kind of case, when you are searching into the literature, it is possible that a case report has been written out because of rare condition. And if that condition just met or meet your clinical situation, just use it because you don't have other high quality study to use. And it's hard to find a study that actually matches your case. So use it when you need it. And that's all for today. Of information for you to process. And if you have any question, please feel free to email me. And I hope you did learn something from today's course. Thank you.
Cảm ơn phần chia sẻ vừa rồi của cô. Tiếp theo chúng ta sẽ đến với phần tổng quan về các phương pháp đánh giá về các nghiên cứu về systematic và meta.